Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a lot of news to go over with you today, and more than likely there's going to be more than one video today because we have so much to go over. Before we start though, I want to remind you all that this afternoon at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, we are going to have a live stream. And for those of you that live here in Fairbanks or can get to Fairbanks in the next day or two to claim your prize if you win, I'm going to do a huge giveaway. I'm giving away like 5 different solar generators that I've reviewed in the past. I'm out of room, ladies and gentlemen, and what better way than to make up some more room for some new reviews than to pay it forward to the Fairbanks community members that support this channel. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm also going to be giving away a few Alaska Prepper silver coins to anyone. All right, so we'll all have a great time spending a little bit of time together, and I'm going to be very happy for those of you that win those solar generators. Let's get started with the first one. Things aren't getting that much better. They just aren't. So you have to continue to prepare, continue to fill in the gaps. I know I'm going on and on and on, but I just got an email from a very good friend of mine. I consider him a very good friend. He's been a community member from like the start when I first started this channel. And he's a butcher by trade. And he tells me in this email, AP man, you are right. You were right. I forgot what video I said this on, but I said this on a video where I said that you're going to have to work harder and longer in order to afford the same standard of living. And he's telling me how he has to work more hours in order to make more money to be able to afford the same lifestyle that he had the same time last year. I'm not trying to sound, I mean, I'm not rich, obviously, but I have $400. I have an emergency stash of cash in a bank, and I'll have a little bit of liquid money as well. But when you think about what $400 can get you today, if you go to the supermarket and you fill up your cart, that's probably easily $400. And for me to think that the almost average, because it's almost 50% of Americans that cannot afford a $400 emergency, I'm like, oh my goodness. That is really bad, because a $400 emergency today is not the same as a $400 emergency 10, 15, 20 years ago. 15, 20 years ago, a $400 emergency, that was a lot of money back then, $400. Right? I remember 20 years ago was what? Yep, the early 2000s. I remember I was working at Dean Foods in Michigan, in Everett, Michigan. And I was making about 16, 17 bucks an hour starting working there. At that time, that was really good money. I was able to support my family, just me working there on 16, 17 bucks an hour. I forget exactly what it was. But that was really good money. That was making what, 600, 700 bucks a week. I remember if I got like a $700 paycheck that week, I was like, you know, because I worked overtime and stuff after taxes, I was like, wow, this is awesome, 700 bucks. Back then, $400 was a pretty good chunk of money. But today, ladies and gentlemen, can you say that $400 is really a lot of money? It's not. But about half of Americans can't even afford to have a $400 little nest egg set aside for emergencies. Let me stop talking. Let me read on here. As inflation and economic uncertainty crush American households, only 46% of adults have emergency savings to cover a $400 expense in this third quarter. And if you take a look here, it gives you a chart or a bar graph of what it was the first quarter, the second quarter, and now the third quarter, and it averages out to about 47%. So roughly about 47% of Americans this year so far cannot afford to put away $400 for an emergency. And I think that says a lot about the state of our economy, where the Federal Reserve says, oh, we're not in a recession. Sure, of course they're not in a recession, ladies and gentlemen, because they're the ones that control the numbers. They're the ones that tell you what the numbers are. So continue to prepare, all right? And for those of you that think that things are really getting better, just take a look around, because maybe things are getting better for you. We are all different. For you personally, maybe things are getting better, and that is great. But take a look around as far as our grand economy, our whole economy, and you can see that we are in a downward trend, and eventually it's going to affect everyone. So continue to prepare. All right, that's what I should have said. Instead of going over everything I just said, I said continue to prepare, ladies and gentlemen. So let's take a look at our next one that tells me that the economy and that things aren't necessarily going to be getting any better. And that's oil prices, ladies and gentlemen. Oil prices hold at April highs after OPEC and panel report. Pretty much OPEC is saying that they're going to cut the production of oil, or the pumping of oil, so that they can control the price of the market. And this doesn't come at a very good time for our nation, for the United States of America, because right now our strategic oil reserves, or petroleum reserves, or SPR, is less than half full, ladies and gentlemen. And in order for us to be able to fill that back up now, it's going to be a lot more expensive. And I just don't see the price of oil really going down very much, because the price of oil for us here, at least in the United States, is contingent on the value of the dollar. So I don't see the value of the dollar really going up very high anytime soon. And we'll have to see what happens on August 22nd after the BRICS Plus nations meet and say what it is that they're going to be doing with this gold-backed currency that we've been hearing about all this time. I believe that even if they do come out with this, some kind of a gold-backed currency that they're going to use amongst the block of BRICS nations, I don't believe that's the end of the dollar. And I've stated that before on previous videos. I believe that the dollar will continue to be the U.S. Federal Reserve note, that it will continue to be the world reserve currency. However, it will be greatly devalued and continuously devalued until it has no more value left to give. And therefore, you, whoever's holding dollars or dollar denominated assets like stocks, bonds, retirements, etc., will lose out. Another thing that's going to make prices continue to stay up and go back up is global container rates jumped the most in 2 years. A lot of people don't think about this, but those things that you buy from China, that you buy from India, that you buy from Vietnam, etc., they have to get here somewhere. Have you been seeing the things that come in from outside of our borders go down in price, even though the dollar has been pretty high lately? One thing that I've noticed is that even though the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates, all right, which is supposed to make the dollar stronger, that the price of gold is still very steady at almost $2,000 an ounce, and that the price of silver is still pretty steady, being at about $24, $25 an ounce. Usually when the dollar goes up, the price of gold goes down. It has an inverse reaction, or an inverse correlation. If the dollar goes up, gold and silver go down, vice versa. But now that the dollar is staying pretty strong, in my opinion, anything over 100 is pretty strong, the gold and silver are still staying pretty strong. What does that tell me? What I'm trying to get at is that when the dollar finally goes down, I think that we will see a time in the near future, in the next, I would say 6 months to 2 or 3 years, which is the near future. Some people are like, oh, 2 or 3 years, you got to be kidding me. No, that is the near future when we're talking about economics, and financials. Within the next 6 months to 3 years, let's say, I think the dollar will be all the way back down to about 70 level, 0.70 level, because it's all a cycle, all right? And when it goes down that far down, ladies and gentlemen, the only way you're going to be able to protect your financials, in my opinion, right, I'm not a financial advisor, is to have gold or silver. Because when it goes down that far, gold and silver are going to shoot straight up. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make $1 million. It doesn't mean you're going to be rich. It just means that you're going to be able to protect the purchasing power of those dollars that you converted into gold and silver, i.e. not allowing the government, the Federal Reserve, to strip you of the labor that it took you to earn that fiat currency that you then converted to gold and silver. I hope that makes sense. And the next time, ladies and gentlemen, that you look at your pay stub, whether it be on a piece of paper or digitally, and you see those taxes taken out, just remember this: $51,000 trash cans. Senate votes to throw $886 billion at the defense expense for this year, right? So how much of that money is wasted? Well, they just gave you a few examples on this article. I just think that it's pretty interesting that most people don't know about this. And how would they? You know, when I read these types of articles, I'm like, how would most people even know about this, even though it's out there on the media for you to hear? No, it's not in the mainstream media, because they don't want the mass of the population that watch mainstream media. They don't want them to know how careless the government is with the taxes that they take out of their paychecks. They don't want them to know. And most of those people are like that 46% that don't have $400 for an emergency. So do they really have time to be doing research? That's why I would say most people should stay away from mainstream media, from legacy media, and get onto some media that's here on YouTube or on Twitter or etc. Find someone that you can trust, that you can then look at things that normally would not be represented in the legacy media, and then you can do your own research to find out. But most people aren't going to look at this, and that's why they keep getting away with this. Because if most people looked at this and knew about this, they would get angry enough to make enough of a ruckus to where they would stop doing this. But I just wanted to show you something here. I think I highlighted it. Yeah. In 2020, the Pentagon paid Boeing over $200,000 for 4 trash cans, all right, translating to roughly $51,600 per unit. In a 2021 contract, the company charged $36,640 for 11 trash cans, resulting in a total cost of more than $400,000. So we're talking about 11 plus 4, 15 trash cans cost the taxpayers $600,000. These were trash cans, ladies and gentlemen, nothing special about them. It's just that they can price gouge and get away with it, and why not? That's what they're going to do. So that's where your tax dollars are going to. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Rand Paul usually puts out a video every year showing how the government is wasting your tax dollars. But this is something that's going to continue, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason why I'm putting this out here is so that you can see when you get paid, look at how much taxes they take out of your paycheck. And then look at the things that they spend the money on, that they waste the money on. And if you're willing to freely give up that money to do that, then that's fine. It's your money, right? But if you're not, then what is it that they're doing? They're not just stealing your money. They are stealing your labor, the time that it took you to earn that money. And this is why, in my opinions, you ought to protect yourself with gold and silver as well. But it says gold, make saving great again. Gold has been mankind's most enduring store of value asset because of its unique characteristic. Gold is durable, divisible, consistent, convenient, scarce, and most importantly, the hardest of all physical commodities. In other words, gold is the one physical commodity that is the hardest to produce relative to existing stockpiles, and therefore the most resistant to be debased. Gold is indestructible, and its stockpiles have been built up over thousands of years. That's a big reason why the new annual gold supply growth, typically 1 to 2% a year, is insignificant. In other words, nobody can arbitrarily inflate the supply. That makes gold an excellent store of value and gives the yellow metal its superior monetary properties. Many people are hung up on this, well, gold is just a rock. Ladies and gentlemen, the thing about gold and silver is more of an industrial metal now because we've found so many things that it can do to better our lives here on earth. But the thing about gold, I would say, is that you have to understand that humanity needs money. We need to be able to exchange value for value. And in my opinion, God put gold and silver on the earth so that we can use it to exchange value for value, right? Because if you are a builder and you need some eggs, what are you going to do? Build a farmer a shed for a dozen eggs or for 50 dozen eggs? No, you're going to build him a shed, right? And he's going to pay you a half ounce of gold or an ounce of gold, whatever you decide. And then you're going to be able to take that ounce of gold or half ounce of gold or whatever it may be, and you're going to be able to trade it with different people for different things. And they're going to be able to do the same. It's just a way to exchange value for value, right? Where you don't have to trust anyone. You don't have to trust gold. Gold is untrustable. You don't have to trust it because it is what it is already. Anyways, let's see. People in every country of the world value gold. It is worth its worth doesn't depend on any government or any counterparty at all. Gold has always been an inherently international and politically neutral asset. This is why different civilizations worldwide have used gold to store value for millennia. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so, I think that the times that we're living in now, if you're not one of those 46% or 47% of Americans that cannot afford a $400 emergency, and you have what I like to call excess wealth, meaning that you have all your preps, you have everything set aside that you need, you have an emergency fund, then I would definitely go ahead and put a little bit of that aside in precious metals. But that's my opinion. I'm not a financial advisor. Now, for those of you that are still here, I have great news. I got my blood work back, all right? So I saved it to the end so that I can share with those of you that are still here. So thank you for being here. First of all, to the end of this video, I got my blood work back after 6 months of being on a ketovore/carnivore diet. Now, for those of you that may be here that are new, that haven't been here that long, 6 months ago on January 13th of this year, I was diagnosed as being a pretty bad diabetic, and I actually have my numbers right here. And let's see, I'm not going to show this to you because it's got so much stuff on it, and it's also got a lot of personal information on it. So my hemoglobin A1C, which is how they measure the blood that like sticks to the sugar that sticks to your blood long term, it was a 9.2 back on the 13th of January. And when I found this out, I went ahead and went into what I like to call military mode. And what I did was I told the doctor, I don't want to take any medication, and I just want to do this naturally. Tell me what I have to do. And he pretty much told me, well, I can't really tell you anything to do but to take medication, but off the record, go ahead and watch these YouTube channels. Dr. Fung is the one that he introduced me to first. Sugar MD is another one. Dr. Ben Carey, Dr. Ken Berry. Dr. Ken Berry is his name. Dr. Shafi. So I just got on the bandwagon. I just started binge watching all of these YouTube channels that have to do with carnivore diet, ketovore diet. And anyways, when I went back for my second test in April, my hemoglobin A1C was down to 6.8. So I made a lot of progress. However, it was still a little bit above the diabetic level. And for you to be called a diabetic, your hemoglobin A1C has to be, I believe it's above 6.5 or 6.5 and above. So I just kept doing the same thing that I've been doing for the last several months, ladies and gentlemen. I went in and took my last blood test, and although the results are a little bit not as good, I guess, than what I hoped they would be, they're still great. Why? Because I'm progressing. As long as you're progressing, even if it's very, very slowly, you're doing good. That means you're not going backwards. You're just going forward a little slower than you were before. Now, my hemoglobin A1C for this time around, let me see, when did I take this one? It was on the 25th of July that I went and did that blood work. But you know, it takes a few days for you to get the results. It was 6.3. So it went from a 6.8 back in April 19th to a 6.3 in July 25th of this year, which is 5 points lower than it was before, which is great, ladies and gentlemen. You know why? Because now I'm technically I am in the pre-diabetic range. So I went all the way from 9.2, was it? 9.2 in January to 6.3 current right now, and to me that's great news. Now I want to share with you what my triglycerides and stuff like that was. My total cholesterol actually went up a little bit, but in a way it's for a good reason. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, my total cholesterol. So when I first started this journey, finding out that I was diabetic, my cholesterol was 197 total cholesterol. Then my second test, my cholesterol was 196. Okay, this time around my cholesterol is 210, a little bit over 200, which is not terrible. But the main reason why my cholesterol went up some is because my good cholesterol, my HDL, high density lipoproteins, it went up 7 points from my last time. So the first time that I did my blood test, I had a HDL of 36, which is a little bit low. They want it to be 40 or higher. And then the second blood test, it was 40. Okay, and now this blood test around is 47. So 47 is actually pretty good. The doc told me, he's like, what are you still eating? And I said, I'm eating the same thing I was eating before. I'm eating nothing but pretty much animal proteins. All right, I did go to a restaurant with my son and my daughter-in-law the other day, and I had a steak, and I also had some what do you call it, stir-fried cabbage. It's just cabbage stir fried with seasoning. And I came home and I took my blood sugar about an hour and a half after I had that stir fry, and my blood sugar was great. It was under 100. So I'm like, hey, I can maybe start eating a little bit of cabbage here now and then. So that is good. But my HDL is up. Let's see, my LDL, my low density lipoproteins, where is it at? It went up to 141. All right, so it went up to 141 from 137, and that's not terrible as far as what the doctor said. They do want to see it under 100, but that's not terrible. My triglycerides went up to 102 from 94. However, when I started this journey, my triglycerides were at 116. So we'll just have to check and see what it is the next time that I go for another set of blood work, which will be, I think, sometime in October. I'll keep you filled in on how that's going. But I'm very happy with all of the results. My weight is going down so slow, ladies and gentlemen, that I almost don't even notice it. But from my last visit, I lost like 2.5 pounds. So about 2.5 pounds in like 3 months. All right, but the thing is that it's going down, it's progressing. So I'm not really too worried about the weight. I'm pretty happy with the cholesterol. I'm pretty happy with my A1C, of course, and my average. Let me see if I can tell you what my average glucose. Yes, here, my average glucose when I first started this journey was 217, which is more than twice of what it's supposed to be. All right, my second blood work, my average glucose was reading 148. All right, and now I was a little bit disappointed with my average glucose now because every time that I do my test strips, that I check my glucose, it's always in the 100, in the low 100s, like either 110 all the way down to 80. I haven't gotten any readings over 110 for the longest time. So when I saw that my average glucose here, according to the blood work, was 134. But 134, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's a lot better than 217, and it's obviously better than 148. So we'll have to see what it is next time. I'm pretty hopeful that it'll continue to get better because I haven't really changed anything about how I eat. And here, as soon as winter starts, I'll actually start going to the gym and doing some resistance training. Right now, I'm outside most of the time, so I don't have time to be doing that stuff. But once winter starts, hopefully a little bit of resistance training will actually help my metabolism to pick up a little bit more. But as long as my blood sugar is good, I'm actually pretty good with that. All right, so having said that, again, I hope that I see you all at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I don't even know how long this video has gone on, but I'm pretty sure it's gone on for a long time. And if you're still here, you're awesome. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.